Welcome to Toxic from Reddit, where real toxic relationship stories come to life. Here you'll hear true stories from people who experience toxic relationships from different perspectives. Partners dealing with cheating, manipulation, gaslighting, red flags, and all the emotional chaos that comes with loving someone who hurts you. Stories of betrayal, of finding strength to leave, of discovering the truth, of heartbreak, of healing, and the raw reality of toxic love. This is a real story, shared anonymously on Reddit. Some details have been changed to protect the identity of the people involved. Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I'm 32 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. And I need to tell you about the absolute nightmare that my life has become since my mother-in-law moved into our house 6 months ago, which is that she has completely taken over my home. She's rearranged all of my furniture, she's thrown away my belongings, she cooks all the meals and won't let me in my own kitchen. She does all the laundry and has reorganized my closets. She's redecorated our bedroom, and worst of all, my husband doesn't see anything wrong with this. He says that his mother is just trying to help and that I should be grateful. But I feel like I'm being pushed out of my own home, like I'm a guest in a house that I pay the mortgage on, and I don't know how much longer I can take this before I completely lose my mind. I'm going to tell you this entire story from the beginning because the situation is so complex and there's so much history that you need to understand. My husband's name is Marcus. He's 34 years old, and we've been married for 7 years. Marcus and I met in college. We dated for 3 years before getting engaged, and we had what I thought was a really strong, healthy relationship. Marcus is an only child, and he's always been very close with his mother, whose name is Patricia, but everyone calls her Patty. Patty is 62 years old, and she's always been a very strong personality. Like, she's opinionated and controlling, and she likes things done her way. When Marcus and I were dating, I noticed that Patty was very involved in Marcus's life. Like, she would call him multiple times a day. She had opinions about everything he did, and she definitely had opinions about me. Patty never seemed to think that I was good enough for Marcus. Like, she would make little comments about my appearance, my career, my cooking, my housekeeping, and it always felt like she was criticizing me and comparing me to herself. Marcus would always defend his mother and say that she was just trying to be helpful, that she meant well, and that I was being too sensitive. When Marcus and I got engaged, Patty tried to take over the wedding planning. Like, she had opinions about everything from the venue to the dress to the guest list. And she kept saying things like, well, when I got married, we did it this way, or in our family, we have this tradition. I tried to be respectful and include her in the planning. But it got to the point where I felt like I was planning Patty's dream wedding instead of my own. There were several times during the wedding planning where I had to put my foot down and tell Patty that this was my wedding and I was going to make the final decisions. And Patty would get upset, and Marcus would get caught in the middle. Marcus would always try to keep the peace, and he would ask me to compromise or to just let his mother have her way on certain things to avoid conflict. Looking back, I can see that this was a red flag, that Marcus's inability to set boundaries with his mother was going to be a problem in our marriage. But at the time, I loved Marcus, and I thought that once we were married and living on our own, things would get better. After we got married, Marcus and I bought a house together, a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood in Portland. I was so excited to have our own space, to decorate it the way I wanted, to create a home that reflected both of us. Patty lived about 30 minutes away in the house where Marcus grew up, and Marcus's father, whose name was Robert, was still alive at that time. For the first few years of our marriage, things were pretty good. Like, Patty would visit occasionally, she would still make comments and try to give unsolicited advice, but it was manageable because she had her own life and her own home. Marcus and I both had good jobs. I work as a graphic designer, and Marcus works as an engineer, and we were building a nice life together. About 3 years ago, Marcus's father, Robert, passed away suddenly from a heart attack, and it was devastating for the whole family, especially for Patty. Robert and Patty had been married for 40 years, and Patty was completely lost without him. After Robert died, Patty became very dependent on Marcus. Like, she would call him constantly. She needed help with everything, and Marcus felt obligated to take care of her. I understood that Patty was grieving and that she needed support, and I tried to be understanding and patient. Marcus started going over to Patty's house several times a week to help her with things like yard work, home repairs, paying bills, and just keeping her company. I supported this because I knew that Marcus needed to be there for his mother during this difficult time. But as time went on, Patty's dependence on Marcus didn't get better. It got worse. She would call Marcus at all hours of the day and night. She would have emergencies that required Marcus to drop everything and go help her, and it started to put a strain on our marriage. I felt like Marcus was prioritizing his mother over me, like I was coming second to Patty, and when I tried to talk to Marcus about it, He would say that his mother was grieving and that I needed to be more understanding. About a year after Robert died, Patty started having some health issues, like she had high blood pressure and some mobility problems, and her doctor recommended that she not live alone anymore. Marcus immediately suggested that Patty move in with us, and I was completely blindsided. Like, he didn't ask me, he didn't discuss it with me, he just told me that his mother was going to move in. I was upset. I said, Marcus, this is a huge decision. We need to talk about this. We need to discuss what this would look like and what the boundaries would be. And Marcus said that there was nothing to discuss, that his mother needed help and we had the space, and it was the right thing to do. I tried to express my concerns. I said that I was worried about losing our privacy, about Patty taking over our home, about the impact on our marriage. But Marcus dismissed all of my concerns and said that I was being selfish. I felt like I didn't have a choice. Like, if I said no to Patty moving in, I would be the bad guy. I would be the heartless daughter-in-law who wouldn't help her grieving mother-in-law. So I agreed, but I told Marcus that we needed to set clear boundaries, that Patty would have her own space, that she wouldn't interfere with how we ran our household, and that we would still have our privacy and our independence. Marcus agreed, and we converted one of our spare bedrooms into a bedroom for Patty, and we set up the other spare bedroom as a sitting room for her so she would have her own space. When Patty moved in 6 months ago, I tried to be welcoming. I helped her unpack, I tried to make her feel at home, and I hoped that we could all live together peacefully. But within the first week, I started to see problems. Patty immediately started rearranging things in the common areas of the house, like she moved furniture around in the living room, she reorganized the kitchen cabinets, and she started redecorating with her own pictures and knickknacks. When I asked her about it, she said that she was just trying to make the house feel more homey, and that she thought her way was better. I tried to be patient. I tried to gently tell Patty that I appreciated her input, but that I liked the house the way it was. But Patty would just ignore me, or she would go to Marcus, and Marcus would tell me to just let it go, that it wasn't a big deal. But it was a big deal to me, because this was my home, and I felt like Patty was erasing me from it. Then Patty started taking over the cooking, like she would be in the kitchen all day preparing elaborate meals, and she would get offended if I tried to cook, or if I suggested that we order takeout. Patty's cooking is very traditional and very heavy, lots of meat and potatoes and gravy, and it's not really the way that I like to eat. I prefer lighter, healthier meals with lots of vegetables. But whenever I would try to cook something different, Patty would make comments like, "Oh, Marcus needs a real meal, not rabbit food," or she would hover over me in the kitchen criticizing everything I did. It got to the point where it was easier to just let Patty cook than to deal with the conflict. But I resented it because cooking has always been something I enjoyed, and now I felt like I wasn't allowed in my own kitchen. Patty also took over the laundry, like she would go into our bedroom and take our dirty clothes and wash them, and she would fold them and put them away, but she would put them away in the wrong places, and she would organize our closets the way she thought they should be organized. I tried to tell Patty that I appreciated her help, but that I preferred to do my own laundry. And Patty said that she was just trying to be helpful, and that I should be grateful that she was taking care of things. But I didn't want her to take care of things. I wanted to take care of my own home, and I felt like Patty was treating me like I was incompetent, like I couldn't manage my own household. Marcus didn't see the problem. He said that his mother was just trying to help, and that I should appreciate that she was doing chores so that I didn't have to. But that wasn't the point. The point was that Patty was taking over my home and my role as the woman of the house, and I felt like I was being pushed out. Things got even worse when Patty started redecorating our bedroom. Like, she came in one day while I was at work and she had changed the curtains, moved the furniture around, and put up different artwork. I was furious. I said, "Patty, this is my private bedroom. You can't just come in here and change things." And Patty said that she thought the room needed updating and that she was just trying to make it nicer. I went to Marcus and I said, "Marcus, your mother redecorated our bedroom without asking. This is completely unacceptable." And Marcus said that his mother was just trying to help, and that the room did look nicer, and that I was overreacting. I couldn't believe that Marcus was taking his mother's side. I said, "Marcus, this is our bedroom, our private space, and your mother violated that." And Marcus said that I was being dramatic, and that his mother lived here now, and she should be able to contribute to the household. I felt like I was going crazy, like I was the only one who saw how inappropriate Patty's behavior was. And Marcus was completely blind to it. I started to feel like a guest in my own home, like I had to ask permission to use my own kitchen, like I couldn't relax in my own living room because Patty was always there, always watching, always commenting on everything I did. Patty also started inserting herself into my relationship with Marcus, like she would plan activities for her and Marcus without including me. She would make comments about how Marcus used to like things before he met me, and she would tell stories about Marcus's childhood and his ex-girlfriends in a way that felt like she was trying to remind me that she knew Marcus better than I did. Patty also started doing things for Marcus that I used to do, like she would pack his lunch for work, she would lay out his clothes in the morning, she would make his favorite meals, and it felt like she was trying to replace me as Marcus's partner. And the worst part was that Marcus seemed to enjoy it, like he was happy to have his mother taking care of him, and he didn't see how hurtful it was to me. I tried to talk to Marcus about how I was feeling. I said, Marcus, I feel like your mother is trying to replace me. I feel like I'm being pushed out of my own home and my own marriage. And Marcus said that I was being ridiculous, that his mother was just trying to help, and that I should be grateful that she was taking care of things so that I could focus on my career. But I didn't want to focus on my career. I wanted to have a home life. I wanted to be able to cook dinner for my husband. I wanted to be able to decorate my own house. I wanted to feel like I had a say in my own home. I started to resent Patty, and I started to resent Marcus for not standing up for me, for not setting boundaries with his mother, for not seeing how unhappy I was. I started spending more time at work, staying late at the office, going out with friends, anything to avoid being at home with Patty. When I was home, I would stay in our bedroom with the door closed, and Patty would make comments to Marcus about how I was being antisocial and unfriendly, and Marcus would come to our room and ask me to make more of an effort to spend time with his mother. I felt like I couldn't win. Like no matter what I did, I was the bad guy. If I tried to assert myself and set boundaries with Patty, Marcus would say I was being mean to his grieving mother. If I withdrew and tried to avoid conflict, Marcus would say I was being antisocial and not making an effort. I felt trapped and miserable in my own home. About 3 months after Patty moved in, I started going to therapy because I was feeling so depressed and anxious, and my therapist has been really helpful in helping me understand the dynamics of what's happening. My therapist explained that what Patty is doing is called enmeshment, which is when a parent has an unhealthy, overly close relationship with their adult child and doesn't respect boundaries. My therapist also explained that Marcus is what's called a mama's boy, which means that he prioritizes his mother's needs and feelings over his wife's, and that he hasn't fully separated from his mother and established himself as an independent adult. My therapist said that this is a very common problem in marriages, and that it often leads to divorce if the husband isn't willing to set boundaries with his mother. My therapist encouraged me to have a serious conversation with Marcus about how I was feeling, and to be very clear about what needed to change. So I sat Marcus down and I said, Marcus, I need you to hear me. I am deeply unhappy. I feel like I'm being pushed out of my own home. I feel like your mother is trying to replace me, and I need you to set boundaries with her. I need you to tell her that she can't rearrange our house, that she can't come into our bedroom, that she needs to respect that this is our home and we are the primary residents. Marcus got defensive. He said that his mother was just trying to help, that she was grieving and lonely, and that I was being selfish and unsupportive. I said, Marcus, I have been supportive. I agreed to let your mother move in. I have tried to be patient and understanding, but your mother has crossed so many boundaries and you refuse to see it. You always take her side, and I'm telling you that if things don't change, I don't know if I can stay in this marriage. Marcus looked shocked. He said, you're threatening to leave me because my mother is living with us. And I said, no. I'm telling you that I'm leaving because you won't stand up for me, because you won't set boundaries with your mother, because you're choosing her over me. Marcus said that I was being dramatic, that I was overreacting, and that I just needed to adjust to the new living situation. I realized in that moment that Marcus wasn't going to change, that he didn't see anything wrong with his mother's behavior, and that he was never going to prioritize me over her. I felt hopeless and defeated, and I didn't know what to do. I talked to my therapist about it, and my therapist said that I had 3 options. I could continue to live in this situation and be miserable, I could try couples counseling with Marcus and hope that he would be willing to work on the issues, or I could leave the marriage. I decided to suggest couples counseling to Marcus, and at first he was resistant. He said that we didn't need counseling, that I just needed to be more flexible and understanding. But I insisted. I said, Marcus, our marriage is in serious trouble. And if you're not willing to go to counseling with me, then I'm going to have to make some difficult decisions about our future. Marcus finally agreed to go to couples counseling, and we've been going for about 2 months now. The counseling has been eye-opening because the therapist has been able to point out the unhealthy dynamics between Marcus and his mother in a way that Marcus can't dismiss or ignore. The therapist has explained to Marcus that he needs to establish clear boundaries with his mother, that his primary loyalty needs to be to his wife, and that Patty's behavior is inappropriate and controlling. Marcus has been resistant to a lot of what the therapist has said, like he keeps defending his mother and saying that she doesn't mean any harm, but the therapist has been firm in saying that regardless of Patty's intentions, her behavior is damaging to our marriage and it needs to stop. The therapist has given Marcus homework, like he needs to have a conversation with his mother about boundaries. He needs to tell her that she can't rearrange our house or come into our bedroom, and that she needs to respect that Marcus and I are a married couple and we need our privacy and independence. Marcus has been dragging his feet on having this conversation with Patty. Like, he keeps saying that he'll do it, but then he doesn't. And I'm getting frustrated because I feel like Marcus is still prioritizing his mother's feelings over mine. In our last counseling session, I told Marcus that I needed to see action, not just promises, and that if he didn't have a conversation with his mother within the next week, I was going to move out temporarily to give myself some space. Marcus was upset. He said that I was giving him an ultimatum, and I said yes, I am, because I've been patient and understanding for 6 months, and nothing has changed, and I can't continue to live like this. The therapist supported me and said that it was reasonable for me to set a boundary and to follow through with consequences if Marcus didn't take action. So Marcus finally had a conversation with Patty, and it did not go well. Marcus told Patty that she needed to respect our privacy, that she couldn't rearrange our house or come into our bedroom, and that she needed to let me have space in the kitchen and with the household chores. Patty was very upset. She started crying and saying that she was just trying to help, that she felt like I didn't appreciate her, and that she didn't understand why I was being so mean to her. Marcus immediately started backtracking. He started comforting Patty and saying that it was okay, that he knew she meant well, and that we would figure it out. I was watching this conversation from the doorway, and I was furious, because Marcus had completely caved to his mother's tears, and he hadn't held firm on the boundaries we had discussed. After Patty went to her room, I confronted Marcus. I said, "Marcus, you completely caved. You didn't hold firm on any of the boundaries we discussed." And Marcus said that his mother was upset and that he didn't want to hurt her feelings. I said, "Marcus, what about my feelings? What about the fact that I'm miserable in my own home?" And Marcus said that I was being unreasonable, that his mother was old and set in her ways, and that I needed to be more patient. That was the moment when I realized that Marcus was never going to change, that he was never going to choose me over his mother, and that I needed to make a decision about my future. I told Marcus that I was going to stay with my sister for a while, that I needed some space to think about what I wanted, and Marcus said that I was being dramatic and that running away wasn't going to solve anything. I packed a bag and I went to stay with my sister, whose name is Jennifer, and she's been incredibly supportive. Jennifer has always thought that Marcus was too close with his mother, and she's been encouraging me to stand up for myself and to not accept being treated this way. Staying with Jennifer has been good for me, like I've been able to relax and breathe and remember what it feels like to be in a space where I'm not constantly being criticized and controlled. I've been at Jennifer's house for 2 weeks now, and Marcus has been calling and texting constantly, asking me to come home, saying that he misses me, and that we can work things out. But he hasn't said anything about setting boundaries with his mother. He hasn't said anything about making changes. He just wants me to come home and continue living the way we were. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my marriage and about what I want for my future, and I'm realizing that I don't want to spend the rest of my life competing with my mother-in-law for my husband's attention and loyalty. I don't want to live in a home where I feel like a guest, where I can't cook in my own kitchen or decorate my own house or have privacy in my own bedroom. I've been thinking about divorce, and it's a scary thought because I love Marcus, or at least I love the man I thought he was. But I'm realizing that Marcus isn't capable of being the husband I need him to be. Marcus is so enmeshed with his mother that he can't see how unhealthy their relationship is, and he's not willing to do the work to change it. My therapist has been helping me think through my options, and she's been very clear that I need to do what's best for me, that I can't stay in a marriage hoping that Marcus will change, because he's shown me over and over again that he's not willing to change. My therapist has also pointed out that even if Marcus did set boundaries with Patty, the damage to our marriage might already be done, because I've lost trust in Marcus and I've lost respect for him. I've been talking to a divorce lawyer just to understand what my options are, and the lawyer has explained that because Marcus and I don't have children, the divorce would be relatively straightforward. We would just need to divide our assets, which includes the house. The lawyer said that I would likely be entitled to half of the equity in the house, and that I could use that money to start over and buy my own place. The thought of starting over is both terrifying and exciting. Like, I'm scared to be alone. I'm scared to give up on my marriage, but I'm also excited about the possibility of having my own space, of being able to live my life the way I want to live it, without constantly being criticized and controlled by my mother-in-law. I've been thinking about all the red flags that I ignored when Marcus and I were dating and engaged, like the way Patty was so controlling and the way Marcus always defended her. And I'm realizing that I should have paid more attention to those red flags, because they were indicators of the problems we would have in our marriage. I've been thinking about the concept of mama's boys, and about how common this problem is, and I've been reading stories online from other women who are married to mama's boys, and it's been validating to know that I'm not alone, that other women have experienced the same things I'm experiencing. Many of these women have said that their husbands never changed, that they ended up getting divorced, and that they wished they had left sooner. I've also read some stories from women who said that their husbands did eventually set boundaries with their mothers, but that it took years of therapy and a lot of hard work, and that their marriages were never quite the same. These stories have made me realize that even if Marcus does eventually change, it might be too late for our marriage, because the resentment and hurt that I feel might be too deep to overcome. I've been thinking about what my life would look like if I got divorced, like where I would live, what I would do, how I would move forward, and I'm realizing that I would be okay, that I'm strong enough to start over, and that I deserve to be in a relationship where I'm valued and respected and prioritized. I've been thinking about Marcus and whether he's capable of change, and I honestly don't know. Part of me thinks that if I leave, if I actually file for divorce, that might be the wake-up call that Marcus needs to realize how serious this is, and to finally set boundaries with his mother. But another part of me thinks that even if Marcus does change, it would only be temporary, that as soon as I came back, things would go back to the way they were. I've been thinking about Patty and about whether she's intentionally trying to destroy my marriage, or whether she's just oblivious to how her behavior is affecting me. I think it's probably a combination of both. Like, I think Patty is so used to being the most important woman in Marcus's life that she can't handle sharing him with me. And I think she's threatened by me, and she's trying to push me out so that she can have Marcus all to herself. I've been thinking about the future, and about whether Marcus and I will be able to save our marriage, or whether we're headed for divorce. Right now, I'm leaning towards divorce, because I don't see how things can get better. I don't see Marcus changing, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life fighting with my mother-in-law for my husband's attention. Marcus has asked me to come to our next couples counseling session, and I've agreed to go, but I've told him that this is his last chance, that he needs to show me that he's willing to make real changes, that he's willing to set firm boundaries with his mother, and that he's willing to prioritize our marriage. If Marcus can't do that, then I'm going to file for divorce. I've been preparing myself emotionally for the possibility of divorce. Like, I've been grieving the loss of my marriage, grieving the future that I thought Marcus and I would have together, and trying to accept that sometimes love isn't enough, that you can love someone and still need to leave them because the relationship isn't healthy. I've been thinking about the house, and about how painful it would be to sell it, because I put so much work into making it a home. I picked out all the furniture and the decorations, I painted the walls, I planted the garden, and now Patty has come in and changed everything, and it doesn't even feel like my home anymore. If Marcus and I do get divorced, I think I would want to sell the house, because there are too many painful memories there now, and I would want to start fresh somewhere new, somewhere that's just mine, where I can create a space that reflects who I am without anyone interfering or criticizing or trying to control me. I've been thinking about my career, and about how I've been so focused on my marriage problems that I've been neglecting my work, and I'm realizing that I need to refocus on my career, that I need to invest in myself and my future, regardless of what happens with my marriage. I've been thinking about my friends and family, and about how supportive they've been during this difficult time, and I'm grateful to have people in my life who love me and who want what's best for me. My sister Jennifer has been amazing. Like, she's let me stay with her. She's listened to me vent for hours, she's given me advice, and she's reminded me that I deserve better than what I've been accepting. I've been thinking about the counseling session that's coming up, and about what I'm going to say to Marcus, and I've decided that I'm going to be very clear and very direct. I'm going to tell Marcus that I need to see concrete actions, not just promises, that I need him to tell his mother that she needs to move out, or at the very least, that she needs to stay in her own space and stop interfering with our lives. I know that asking Marcus to tell his mother to move out is a big ask, and I know that Marcus might not be willing to do it, but I also know that I can't continue to live the way I've been living, and that something has to change. If Marcus isn't willing to ask his mother to move out, then I'm going to file for divorce because I can't spend the rest of my life living with my mother-in-law and feeling like a guest in my own home. I've been thinking about what Patty's reaction will be if Marcus does ask her to move out, and I'm sure she'll be devastated. She'll probably cry and guilt-trip Marcus and make him feel terrible, and I'm worried that Marcus won't be able to handle it, that he'll cave to her emotions like he always does. But I also know that this is a test, that this is Marcus's opportunity to show me that he's willing to prioritize our marriage, that he's willing to set boundaries with his mother, and that he's willing to be the husband that I need him to be. If Marcus can't pass this test, then I know that our marriage is over. I've been thinking about the possibility that Marcus will choose his mother over me, and while that would be incredibly painful, it would also be clarifying, because it would confirm what I already suspect, which is that Marcus is more committed to his mother than he is to me, and that I deserve better than that. I've been thinking about the life I want to build for myself, and I know that I want to be with someone who values me, who respects me, who prioritizes me, and who isn't afraid to set boundaries with their family. I want to be in a relationship where I feel like an equal partner, where my opinions and feelings matter, and where I'm not constantly competing for attention and affection. I've been thinking about whether I would ever date again after this, and I think I would. But I would be much more careful. I would pay attention to red flags. I would ask questions about a person's relationship with their family, and I would make sure that they had healthy boundaries before I got too invested in the relationship. I've been thinking about the counseling session and about what will happen, and I'm nervous but also determined because I know that this is a turning point. That after this session, I'll have clarity about whether my marriage can be saved or whether it's time to move on. Thank you for reading my story. And if you've been through something similar, if you've been married to a mama's boy, if your mother-in-law has tried to take over your home, or if you've had to make the difficult decision to leave a marriage because your spouse wouldn't set boundaries with their family, I would love to hear how you dealt with it and where you are now. I'm still in the middle of this situation, still trying to figure out what to do, still hoping that Marcus will step up and be the husband I need him to be, but also preparing myself for the possibility that he won't, and that I'll need to walk away and start over.